Imagine a life where silence isn't empty, but full of presence, where being alone isn't pain, but protection, where the quiet between thoughts speaks more truth than the loudest crowd. Some people, rare and steady, move through the world carefully, letting every sound, every face, every word pass through a filter in their mind. They're not afraid of life, but they grow tired of the noise that comes with it. For most, conversation is light and pleasant. For them, it can feel heavy. Small talk, polite greetings, and empty words press on them like a fog. They crave the clear, open space that comes only when the crowd disappears and their own thoughts stand alone. Why is it that some of the most brilliant minds, the inventors who reimagine the possible, the artists who paint truths unseen, the philosophers who turn life inside out, walk paths so often alone? Why does the company of others sometimes feel less like companionship and more like erosion? Schopenhauer saw this not as a quirk, but as a law of certain minds. The deeper the mind, the greater its need for solitude. To him, intelligence was not simply the capacity to store facts or untangle logic. It was a sensitivity to reality itself, a piercing awareness of the machinery that turns beneath appearances. And with that awareness comes an inevitable cost. You begin to see what others gloss over. You notice the performance stitched into politeness, the hunger behind praise, the cruelty hidden in routine. This is not bitterness. It is sight sharpened to the point where it cuts. When Schopenhauer wrote, "The more unintelligent a man is, the less mysterious existence seems to him," he was laying bare an uncomfortable truth. The more alive your mind becomes, the less you are soothed by shallow answers or hollow rituals. Every question births another. Every conversation that stays on the surface feels like water evaporating before it touches the tongue. For such minds, small talk is not harmless. It is starvation disguised as sustenance. Have you ever been in a crowded room and felt utterly unreachable, as if your body were present, but your mind had already drifted miles away? If you have, you understand what Schopenhauer meant when he said that a man can only be himself in solitude. It is not arrogance to retreat from the crowd. It is a defense of the rare clarity that noise would erode. The mind, like a finely tuned instrument, cannot play its purest notes in a room where everyone else is shouting. Highly intelligent people carry an almost invisible fatigue, not from labor, but from the constant detection of contradiction, of half-truth, of feigned sincerity. Social life, with its layers of performance, feels like a stage where the play never ends and they are forever miscast. They will smile, they will nod, they will participate, but beneath the surface, they are counting the minutes until they can step outside into the quiet air and hear themselves again. This is not misanthropy, it is misalignment. The depth they seek is not often found in the places society tells us to look. Modern life celebrates the loud, rewards the conformist, and mistakes distraction for vitality. For a deep thinker, this is a constant abrasion, energy demanded without purpose, presence demanded without meaning. Being among people too often means carrying their moods, their projections, their noise. Solitude, then, becomes not an escape from life, but a return to it. Jung saw this too. He spoke of the collective noise from which the introspective spirit must sometimes withdraw if it wishes to survive whole. The more one's inner life grows, the more the outer world begins to feel like a tide pulling you away from yourself. How many times have you agreed to a gathering only to find yourself silently longing for the quiet corner of your room, your books, your music, your thoughts? That longing is not weakness. It is the call to preserve the integrity of your own mind. Schopenhauer warned that constant company dilutes the self, that the more time you spend being shaped by the thoughts and moods of others, the less distinctly you can hear your own. To live authentically, solitude must be chosen, not as punishment, but as cultivation. In this choice, The intelligent person becomes something modern society barely understands. Self-sufficient in thought, internally sustained. The world, however, rarely praises this. We are told that to be social is to be healthy, that to seek quiet is to be odd. But the truth is inverted. The more a person requires noise to feel whole, the more hollow the chambers of their own mind may be. Ordinary people fill their time. A man of talent uses it. This is why the intelligent do not dread boredom. It does not exist for them. In quiet, they are fed. In stillness, they build. And yet, solitude is not a rejection of relationship. It is a refinement of it. The intelligent do not amass acquaintances. They seek out the rare souls whose presence feels like fresh air. They value the conversation where silence is not feared, where truth is not sanded down to avoid discomfort, where each word is a door to a deeper room. Shallow connections do not merely bore them, they damage them, pulling them away from the work of becoming. This is why they will sometimes choose to walk alone, even when it aches. Better the ache of self-preservation than the slow erosion of self-betrayal. Nietzsche, inheriting much from Schopenhauer, warned that society will always try to fold the individual into the tribe, but that this folding often flattens the soul. To resist is to risk being misunderstood, but to yield is to risk never truly existing. In solitude, the intelligent do not only avoid noise, they commune with something greater. They converse with the minds of the past, with the quiet voice of their own intuition, with the questions no one else dares to ask aloud. Silence becomes a companion, a mirror, and a forge. This is where they create, where they wrestle with ideas too delicate or dangerous for the public square, where they give shape to visions that will one day step out into the world fully formed. The paradox is this: while they seem to turn from connection, they often hold within them the deepest capacity for it. But they do not want connection in bulk, they want it in truth. They can go weeks without speaking to anyone, yet when they find the one soul whose presence is real, the bond is electric, unshakable, transformative. They do not gather people, they gather moments of resonance. In these rare connections, something shifts. Masks fall away, pretenses dissolve, and both parties leave altered. This is not interaction, it is alchemy, and until they find it, they would rather live in the company of their thoughts than among those who cannot meet them in the depths. Solitude sharpens them. It teaches them to hear the faintest stirrings of their own mind, to follow the thread of an idea until it becomes something solid enough to change the world. It gives them the patience to create what cannot be made in haste, and the courage to say what will not be welcomed. This is why Schopenhauer saw solitude not as exile, but as the workshop of the soul. And yet, it is not without risk. For those who live so fully within, the line between reflection and rumination can blur. Without balance, the same solitude that nourishes can become the solitude that consumes. The intelligent know this battle well. Their gift is to see deeply. Their danger is to see so deeply that they lose sight of the surface altogether. Emotional grounding is the counterweight to their vision. It keeps them from drowning in the depth they crave. Still, when solitude is chosen with clarity, it becomes the birthplace of greatness. The world's most enduring works were conceived in such spaces. Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree, Newton under quarantine, Beethoven composing in the deaf silence of his mind. Alone, they were anything but idle. They were becoming. Schopenhauer's final unspoken truth is that solitude is not an escape from the world. It is the only vantage point from which to truly see it. It is not withdrawal, it is preparation. From it emerges not merely knowledge, but the kind of wisdom that shifts the course of things. And that wisdom cannot be coaxed out in a crowded room. It must be forged in the quiet fire of one's own company. When you choose solitude, you are not turning your back on life. You are turning toward the part of it that the crowd cannot give you. You are saying, I will not trade my depth for acceptance. I will not silence my own thoughts to join in the noise. And in a time when so many are desperate to be seen, perhaps the most revolutionary act is to be willing to see yourself first. Solitude, when embraced by a mind awake, becomes more than the absence of others. It becomes a realm of rare air, a place where the soul can finally stretch without fear of being clipped. It is in this state that thought slows to its true pace, no longer rushing to keep up with the noise of the collective, but moving with the deliberate rhythm of a heart that listens before it speaks. Here, the intelligent mind rediscovers its own shape, free from the subtle distortions that the presence of others so easily imposes. And this is the secret Schopenhauer hinted at, but never fully named. The intelligent person does not avoid people because they despise them. They avoid the conditions in which their own truth is muffled. To them, life is not to be lived in a constant state of compromise, where every thought must be reduced, every observation softened. They are not afraid of silence. They are afraid of what is lost when silence is never allowed. Think of how many moments in history, in art, in science, were born from someone's refusal to be pulled endlessly outward. A single mind in a quiet room can see more clearly than 100 minds shouting in unison. It is in these quiet chambers that revolutions of thought begin, not with banners and crowds, but with a single person staring into the rawness of reality, unflinching. The world, however, is addicted to immediacy. It mistakes movement for progress and noise for significance. For someone deeply intelligent, this is a daily trial, to walk among the endless performance without being drawn into its script. They see how quickly people surrender their independence for the comfort of belonging, how easily truth is bartered away for applause. And so they retreat, not to abandon the world, but to preserve the clarity needed to meet it on their own terms. This retreat, over time, becomes a discipline. It teaches them that real creation cannot survive in a mind that is constantly crowded. Every idea needs space to take root. Every vision needs quiet in which to take form. In solitude, the intelligent learn to live in long arcs of thought, to follow a question for months or years without letting it slip into the shallow grave of distraction. They become patient with complexity, unwilling to exchange the slow gold of understanding for the glitter of quick opinion.